Hey everyone, we're just talking about the freak known as Pete Hegseth, who's our Secretary of Defense, who, according to reports as of yesterday, is even more manic than he usually is. This is a man, of course, who paid a woman an NDA to silence her about his sexual assault, a man who's had alcohol problems, a man who
Whose
was
own
let go.
mom said that she's ashamed of him for the way he treats women.
The type of email that you get that you pray to God you never get from your
Ever.
mother.
Gosh. And
A
that you
man
certainly
who
pray never ends up in the New York Times, I would say.
a man who can't do a push-up but wants the most fit people, a man who addressed the nation's top generals who all flew from all around the world and were in one place. Genius idea, and then essentially told them to end DEI and be more tough and be more masculine,
And not be
uh,
fat. It's like,
and not be fat, even though
well,
he can't do a
I was
pull-up.
going to
It
say,
was
does the
just
commander in chief set the example there or not?
it,
I
it,
mean,
it, 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 it's pathetic. But I have Kaivon Shroff. You know him, you love him. He's a Democratic strategist. He's a commentator. He goes in these right wing spaces. He also has a Substack here. And we're going to talk about how what we witnessed today, and I've been saying this for 2 weeks, Kaivon, and I want your take on this. It's weakness. You're seeing a weak regime. This was a sign of weakness, folks. And if you haven't caught up on it, we got the top military brass of the United States of America being called on the drop of a dime a couple of days ago. No one knows why. And they all came here, and Pete Hegseth addressed them, and then Donald Trump addressed them. And it was stone cold silence. No one applauded after he finished. When Trump walked on, no one applauded. Trump then said, "Well, you have every right not to applaud, but some of you might lose your ranks." And then all these folks, I saw it. It's all terrifying. Yes, 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 Kaiva. But my take on it is this: the fact that these generals did not applaud, the fact that when we panned to them and saw them in the audience, they were not pleased, gives me a sign of hope that these folks, the people at the top, realize that their commitment is to the United States and the Constitution, and he has not been able to win over them yet.
I agree. And I think, actually, some folks predicted days before that there would be dead silence from these generals. And I'm glad that's what we did see, because there's been other examples where, we've seen some of these folks applaud and it's been concerning. I will say the irony of having a 5-time draft dodger do all this, pomp and circumstance. And I think you're right. It really does show weakness. And of course, I don't think we can overlook the timing that today is the day that the government is going to shut down. And they, of course, have this, circus they're putting on for millions of dollars, wasting money as they're cutting healthcare for Americans. So no surprises there. But we've seen a pattern, right? Again and again, sort of every time Trump has a loss, whether it's Elon Musk calling him out and saying you're in the Epstein Files, just days later, he goes and invades Los Angeles with troops, right? So many times we've seen sort of this flex happen after something humiliating for the administration. And that is authoritarianism, whether or not we're banned from saying it by legacy media or not.
It's all cosplaying, folks, especially with Pete Hegseth, because he's a man so riddled with anxiety. He's a man who's desperately trying so hard to be something he's not. A man who, according to military.com, has lost the faith and trust of the military. They just see him as a punk. He sits there doing videos of him training, right? He can't even do a pull-up. He has all these tattoos, but they see him as a
Yeah,
joke.
the makeup studio built at TOD. I mean, unbelievable.
And also, he just did his whole general patent thing today, and he said, he summons the entire senior U.S. military officer corps, and he says, if America's enemies F around, they'll find out. FAFO. And you saw all of them. There was no hooting, no hollering, no one applauded. They just sat like this. Like it was emasculating in a way that this man who desperately tries to cosplay as an alpha was seen as a beta cuck by US military leaders. Like that wasn't I thought literally, and them televising this, I think was even worse, Kaiwan.
Yeah, no, I mean, even that clip of the silence I've seen already go so viral. It's like embarrassing for them. And I can't wait for people to link all sorts of music to it. I'm sure it'll make the rounds. But
But also we're in a situation where the weakness, you know, the weakness is actually amplifying Project 2025. It's putting it on steroids, right? Because I think they realize the economy sucks. His trade wars are terrible. There's overreach when it comes to immigration. He doesn't look well, and the Epstein files aren't going away. And now he has a shutdown. And this shutdown yesterday, I don't know if you saw JD Vance came out and said he's trying to blame Democrats, but the polls have come out and said that most people blame Republicans. Your take on how Democrats should run this week when it comes to the shutdown? or
Well,
pending
I
shutdown?
do think, it's been a frustrating moment. I know last time I was on, we were sort of debating the moderate and left wing of the party. I think even the moderates in this case have been so underwhelmed and disappointed by Jeffries and Schumer's leadership through this fight. And I think, they absolutely needed to hold their ground here. So I'm glad to see that it appears they will. And I think the messaging needs to be, first of all, pushing hard back against some of the lies coming out of the White House that this was all about healthcare for undocumented people, which is just patently false. And once
False.
again, though, relitigating, I think, what was some of the most effective messaging during that one big beautiful bill back and forth about the cuts that have made to healthcare in this country, and really focusing on healthcare is the winning message. I think with all those other issues that you raise, right? The economy is terrible, prices are still high, and then millions of Americans are going to face a 75% hike in what they're paying for healthcare if they can even access a hospital, because it's in those Trump states, frankly, that rural hospitals are going to shutter all across the country because of what was in that bill. And here the goal was to fight back against some of that. I think also it's a moment for Schumer and Jeffries to try to turn the ship around a little bit and say, we stuck in here. We are fighting. And, obviously, I expect in a couple of weeks the government will reopen. They need to get some sort of win out of Trump. They cannot cave on this. I think that's so important. So I do think it's also a moment where, there will be a little bit of a vacuum of news coming out of DC. And it's an opportunity to focus on all those issues that the administration is effective at sort of rolling on from. Epstein, this immigration crisis that they've totally bungled and mishandled. And I think they're totally losing even people that were initially supportive of their approach.
He's
All of
negative on
these
it, man.
issues.
That was a strong issue, Kevin. What you said, I just want to make sure people understand. That was a strong issue, immigration, right? Even a couple of months ago, that was Trump's strong suit, especially as he went down on the economy. Democrats were terrified, said, we have no message. Let's do Republican light. Let's pass the Lake and Riley Act. Terrible. Oh, shit. Overreach. The overreach, especially with Kilmar Abrego Garcia and the pro-Palestinian students now, and Rameza Ozturk and Mahmoud Khalil, and now the National Guard terrorizing white folks. Now he's negative double digits on immigration. And I don't know if you saw, Kaivon, he has made the irony. Sometimes the irony is delicious. MAGA and the Trump administration have made immigrants great again. The latest Gallup poll showed that immigrants have their highest favorability rating in years. Hey, Danielle. Continue. Sorry. Your take on this.
No, I totally agree. And I think to your point, right? One of Trump's winning issues, whether we agree or not, was immigration and also grocery prices. And he's getting clobbered on both of those right now. So to your point, we're seeing this sort of ridiculous abuse of the military to distract from a lot of that going into our major cities, of course, as Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris warned us Trump would do, because it is the strongman playbook. There's nothing new or interesting or creative about any of this.
I've invited Danielle to join us if you don't mind, because she
Yeah, of
was
course.
watching in foreign. Let's see if she says yes. But Kaivon, I wanted to ask you this. There's some good news. Well, look, folks, it's all dark humor. It's all dark, but we have to find the good. The Washington Post just said the Trump administration illegally arresting and deporting international students for their pro-Palestinian activism was wrong. And specifically, U.S. District Judge William Young said it was, quote, truly scandalous and unconstitutional suppression of free speech. Your
Yep.
take.
And I actually, so I'm an attorney. I was just looking into this because I have a friend working on a similar case. And it's amazing. This is a Reagan appointed judge who starts out the decision, by the way, with a threat he received in a postcard from a Trump supporter saying that Trump has tanks and pardons on his side. What do you have? And he responds saying, what do I have is my sense of duty. But what do you and I have is our magical, beautiful Constitution. And here's what it says in this case, which was kind of an interesting start to the decision. And then he actually has this long section about Trump's engagement with the term retribution and how that's totally out of sync with our Constitution and free speech. And then does come to the decision, like you pointed out, that the Trump administration was engaged in something unconstitutional in their targeting of people that were pro-Palestine in terms of revoking visas and deporting students. So an important decision. Now, he hasn't decided what the remedy he's going to impose is, but that will come.
And the thing is, what they've been trying to do, and Danielle and I have been talking about this for a while, is they talked, and you've written about this, Charlie Kirk, right? So
Right.
Charlie Kirk's murder was supposed to be the Reichstag fire for this administration. The Reichstag fire, for those who know, and those who don't know, 1933, the German parliament burns down. They convict a communist, but everyone says, it seemed fishy, might have been an inside job. Regardless, the Nazis used that to declare martial law and get power. So they tried to do that with the Charlie Kirk murder. They still blame them, they, the left. It ain't. It's Tyler Robinson, right? It ain't you, it ain't me, it ain't transgender folks, right? And then they made him into a martyr. They made Charlie Kirk next to Jesus, right? But most normies who saw Charlie Kirk, like my wife, who had no idea, they're like, oh my God, this man lived his life in hate. What the hell? This is the person they love? And they used Charlie Kirk to crush not just Jimmy Kimmel, folks, but also they got people fired. They got professors fired. People don't know that. But the Jimmy Kimmel canceling was a step too far. I want your read on the failed attempt and the overreach to create Charlie Kirk into the Reichstag fire.
Yeah, I think, more so even as an effort to exploit his death to crack down on free speech, incredibly ironically, of course, because purportedly that's what he stood for. And I know, there's a lot of examples of him not standing for that, like calling for the deportation of Mehdi Hassan and all of that simply because they
Oh,
disagree.
really? They tried to deport Mehdi? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So that's not the civil discourse that Ezra Klein would, sort of frame it as, I think. And in fact, calling for the public execution of Joe Biden, again, is not civil discourse practiced the right way. But let's just say that he was pro free speech in the way that they claim. Their response to try to cancel everyone, by the way, to have a vice president of the United States go and host his podcast, which was creepy in the first place, and then tell his listeners, go call up the employers of people posting things you don't like about Charlie Kirk and try to get them fired is insane. And of course, you note the silence of the Bill Ackmans, the Elon Musks, the sort of self-anointed free speech warriors that for years and years and years claimed that cancel culture was ruining America. It's so exposing and I think unsurprising to folks like us, but that they only cared about your right to say a bunch of racist, bigoted things. They don't actually care about free speech as a concept. And I'm glad to see folks fighting back. I interviewed Randy Weingarten a couple days ago, who has you just talked to her, right? Too coming up, a book out about why fascists hate teachers. And just before she came on with me, I noticed Fox News and all these outlets trying to say, like, how dare she go on her book tour because she uses the word fascism. Words mean things. And if you don't want to be called a fascist, don't act like one. But I will also point out that it was J.D. Vance. It was RFK Jr. that said that Trump was America's Hitler. People in his own cabinet. So it was Donald Trump that from a national stage. Yeah, exactly. Right. And it was Donald Trump from a national stage that called Kamala Harris a fascist. So words are okay for them to use, but not for others. And I will say the facts on violence, it was disgusting to see. Once again, legacy media, I really appreciate folks like you who have built a platform here and why I'm trying to do the same. But, Axios to put out an article saying that left-wing violence has increased as the headline. And then you look at the chart they're talking about every year, right-wing violence is off the charts. And yes, is there like a slight increase by percentage in left-wing violence? Sure. But you look at that chart and you see that right-wing violence is hugely outweighing left-wing violence over the past decade. Something like 100 more killings led by right-wing perpetrators in the last 9 years since 2016. Oh, wonder what that coincides with the rise of Donald Trump compared to the left. And you see somebody like Donald Trump, I worked on the Clinton campaign. I remember when he implied that Second Amendment fans should target Hillary Clinton and basically assassinate her. So this is nothing new. The violent rhetoric should be ascribed to one man who has done this to our politics.
Yeah, and TJ Starr is here from Ukraine. Hey, TJ, I'll try to get you on in a couple minutes if you want to join us. I got Lev in 15, so if you all want to join me for 10 minutes and talk to Kaivon, that'd be great. But I appreciate you saying that because that statistic, that study is by CSIS. It is one study. Oh, Danielle's here. All right, Danielle, come on in because CSIS. Axios ran with that study. Atlantic ran with that study. The framing was atrocious. It was deliberate, especially as Donald Trump and the entirety of the right wing is blaming the left, literally engaging in incitement, civil war, all that bullshit. I talked to a terrorism expert who broke it down, John Horgan, and a few others who showed, like you said, Kaivon, the last 10 years, no one comes close, folks. The GOAT in domestic terrorism is right-wing terrorism and white supremacy. And in that study that they're citing, that Axios and Atlantic deliberately, with that misleading headline and framing they led with, they only went to July, folks. They went to July, and you know how many people, how many incidents they found of left-wing violence? Five. Of those five, one of them they actually attributed to Luigi Mangione, who's apolitical. And by the way, since they stopped in July, they didn't mention, oh, the MAGA CDC attack in
Well,
Atlanta. Oh, they didn't mention the three terrorist attacks we had over the weekend in Michigan, in North Carolina, in Texas. Kaimon, you want to say something?
just one little point I want to make on that piece too, because I feel like another gross piece of this is they're sort of smuggling this Islamophobia in with these stats as well, where the only three categories of political violence in the world that they include are left wing, right wing in the US, and then Islamic violence, like randomly thrown in there as a bucket. And it's just so interesting to see, like, that's such a classic legacy media move to do on both sides. Cause I think there's a lot of people that think that talking point is worth highlighting and sharing. It's like, this has nothing to do with the conversation we're having. It's just an interesting thing to see.
And folks, Kaivon's here because he has a piece on. He really looked at Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA and how it got so successful. So I want to ask him on the back end about, and he has an idea how Democrats can actually, or people who aren't fascists can actually use that to fight back, especially as Oklahoma now wants a TP chapter in every single school. Oklahoma, folks, is ranked 50th in education. I digress. But Danielle, you messaged me after you saw the batshit cosplay performance by Hegseth, who got zero applause from military generals who looked at this freak trying to act like Patton. Your response to the performance we saw today?
I mean, so one, hi, Kaivon.
Hey, always good to see you. It's been too long.
It's so good to see you. Yeah, I messaged you because I was like, where's my passport? I need to get the absolute fuck out of here. It was the most batshit crazy and dangerous event, I think, to date, which says a lot given all of the things that have happened. But to listen to Donald Trump say that we need to use American cities as training grounds, to listen to Pete Hegseth say that we're doing away with, protections for anyone inside of the military to make sure that women aren't sexually abused, to make sure that people of color aren't abused, that we're doing away with all of that. And oh, by the way, that everybody needs to be trim and fit. And I'm like, bitch, did you look at the person next to you? Did anybody take a look? Like, trim and fit for who? For what? But like, aside from that, I think that what is clear and what you and I have been talking about for a very long time, and this is the thing I have not wanted to be right about, which was that Donald Trump is Hitler reincarnated, that they are setting up the final solution, that they are stationing these military outposts in various cities so that they are prepared for the stand back and stand by of martial law. That when Donald Trump says to our admirals and our generals to be using American cities as training grounds, do you understand that the military's full purpose, right, is war? Right? Like, that's what it is. It is to stop war. It is to activate in terms of war. It is about killing. And what he said unequivocally to the American people is that American citizens are now target practice for our military that swore an oath to protect and serve, right? And to uphold the Constitution and democracy. And Donald Trump said, yeah, fuck that. And then I just have to say this, because this comes on the heels of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries sitting down like two fucking idiots inside of the Oval Office talking about, well, we are going to, we have to do these things to avoid a shutdown. And Donald Trump looks in Schumer's face and says, I'm not working with you. I don't care about what you're saying. So whether I have to go around you or use the military, he said that in the Oval Office to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries yesterday, that Congress essentially does not exist in his mind, that if I have to use the military in order to get what I want, I will do that. So folks, like, can we all stop the bullshit debates about, are we an autocracy? Have we slid into fascism? What is this? Should we Google Miriam? Should we ask her? Should we ask ChatGPT? It's like, I don't know how much clearer this needs to be today.
I'll say something that, Kaivon, I know you want to jump in. I always want to remind people, I always bring this receipt from October. I've been saying it every week on Democracy-ish. In October, before Donald Trump was elected, he said the following: "I will unleash the National Guard and military against the, quote, enemy from within." And I said this is the first time a president has ever threatened to unleash the National Guard and military against the enemy from within. Why is he yet again quoting, anyone want to take a guess? Hitler. Hitler used that line. And lo and behold, once he gets elected, what is he doing? Unleashing the National Guard and the military against the enemy from within. He used those words again today. Enemy within. Who is the enemy? He told you in the past week, folks.
It's all of us.
Yeah, no, literally. Antifa is a terrorist organization. I'm going to have Ken Klippenstein on Wednesday and Thursday. Ken has a great piece that could go more viral that we talked about yesterday on Democracy-ish, Kaivon, which is the National Security Presidential Memo.
I saw his piece. Yeah, so important.
Basically, speech is seen as incitement to terrorism, anti-capitalism speech, anti-Christian speech, pro-communism speech. All right. So essentially, the entire Trump administration, as Danielle is telling you, is saying that if we find you a threat, if you go against anything that we say, we will use the Department of War, because they changed the name of Department of Defense to Department of War. And furthermore, folks, we just found out yesterday that Stephen Miller is the architect on this bullshit wannabe war in Venezuela, where this country, our country, extrajudicially, without any evidence, killed 11 Venezuelans on a boat. To this day, folks, we don't know their names. We don't know anything about them. We just have to believe this administration, which is so trustworthy, that they were drug dealers. And even if they were low-level drug dealers, folks, what gives the president the right to unilaterally bomb them, right?
In another country.
In international waters, which then made Venezuela fly their airplanes out, right? And Olivia Troy, who'll be back on tomorrow with me, she said that when she served in the first administration, she said that Stephen Miller openly used to fantasize about bombing Mexico because he thought if he can bomb these Latin American countries, it'll teach him a lesson, right? So the connecting of the dots is the following. If I'm the president, I'm telling you that if you go against me, you're the enemy. And now I'm saying that you're a terrorist. And I'm saying if you do say certain words, you're inciting terrorism. And you just saw that the country let me get away with unilaterally bomb and kill Venezuelans who I designated without any proof as terrorists. So what is he going to do, Kaivon, to the rest of us whom he doesn't like? What can he do? Connect the dots for us.
Well, I think absolutely. I think the bigger picture, too, everything Danielle said, everything you said, Donald Trump is an idiot. He's not a student of history, right? So who is giving him this language and these shadows of history, right? It is people like Stephen Miller. It is people in his orbit that are laser focused on executing these scary, dangerous ideas. And I think that's what's so concerning is people don't take Donald Trump seriously because he is dumb and he does, sort of blunder at all times. But when he has those scripts, when he's quoting Hitler, when he's doing all that type of stuff, it is so concerted and we can't discount it just because a clown is the one presenting it. So very scary to see. And I think what's been scarier to see is, of course, so many of our institutions just rolling over. And I know you and I chatted a little bit I wrote about how CNN and Harvard really, the figure of Scott Jennings, who is an alum of both of those institutions and really a face of them, speaks so much to the moment that we're in right now, because these are purportedly liberal institutions who really actually, as much as Harvard has sued Trump in court as their only option to get billions of dollars, they've rolled over on so many other things, right? They're going to put $1.5 billion, it sounds like, into a conservative think tank and institution on campus. So all of these things are just totally caving by the most cynical people who purport to have these principles and foundational beliefs that the minute they become inconvenient, they turn on, including, of course, our legacy media. We saw that with Jimmy Kimmel. We've seen that with so many other instances where you can't even say certain things. Who should be the number one leaders covering the abuses happening by the National Guard, the abuses by ICE, all of these things, targeting of our citizens, people with $1 million budgets and an entire crew that are safe to go into these spaces. Who is it instead? It's candidates like Kat, I don't want to butcher her last name, but, getting thrown to the ground by ICE, and those people just going as individuals and being battered and abused, right? All of the institutions that should be doing that are absolutely nowhere to be found. So it's horrifying.
Let me just add a point that happened last night, and it should have been breaking news, but since there's 19 fires right now, people have already forgotten about it. Just to your point, YouTube last night agreed to pay $24.5 million to settle a 2021 lawsuit that Trump brought against the company and its chief executive over what? It's suppression of Trump's account. Why? Oh yeah, he incited a
an
violent
insurrection.
insurrection. And by the way, folks, now that brings the number up to $80 million that Trump has hauled in from tech and media companies, Kaivon, to your point. Danielle, as this shit's happening, all the institutions are bending the knee. And we finally saw, but I will say this. I want to say some good news here. Three pieces of good news. You walked in on us and Kaivon as we were talking. One piece of good news. One piece of good news is a judge just slapped down Donald Trump's administration for illegally arresting and deporting international students for their pro-Palestinian activism. I'll take the win. Jimmy Kimmel was reinstated because of the majority of people. I'll take the win. I'll also take the win on two things. Number one, the military generals were not pleased. They did not applaud Hegseth. They did not applaud Donald Trump. That gave me some peace, Danielle. I'm like, oh, they have some fidelity. These are the creme de la creme, folks. These aren't like the friggin' Cash Patels and the Pam Bondis. These are like four-star generals, the people who have been in the trenches, have taken a vow, who are like, literally, they're like, America, Constitution, I'll die for this. I will not bend the knee to a tyrant. That gave me a lot of hope. And I think that should freak out MAGA. And then also, the Epstein Files. The fact that the Epstein Files ain't going away, Danielle, and over 80% of Americans, Republicans, MAGA, Independent, Democrats have not forgotten this. This gives me some hope that there is a pushback. Oh, last one. The Democrats finally listen to their base because I know, Kaivon, that you might not like this, but Danielle and I are going to go there. I had no faith in Hakeem and Schumer, but I think they barely did the right thing because they realized the base is like, no, you have to
agree. I totally
no. And so the fact that they did that, Danielle, I see some wins. Some wins.
Look, I think that it's important to outline those wins because I think that particularly after listening to Donald Trump today, I spoke with several people that feel utterly and completely hopeless. So I feel like it is really important to lift those things up. I think that what folks have to understand is that if you have not gathered your thoughts around this now, then today should be that day where you realize that the institutions are not going to protect you. They are not going to save us, that corporations are not going to do anything that is out of the best interest of them making deals and making more money off of your backs, that the status quo establishment of Democrats are only going to do the bare minimum because that's all they've been put into positions to do, the bare minimum by their corporatist donors. And so at the end of the day, I think that what we have to finally come to and understand is that we're what's left. The people. The people are what's left, right? Like revolutions are not won by corporate backing. They're won because people gather together and they realize that it's either our collective freedom and our collective liberation or it's our collective oppression. Which one are you going to choose? Because at this point in time, right, even those that are deep inside of MAGA are starting to be like, yo, this is the Gestapo, right? Like this is, I mean, they're throwing women on the ground. Like what, they are seeing it unfold before them. And so I think that, somebody just said boycott YouTube. Folks, here's the thing. I don't want individual boycotts anymore, right? Like individual boycotts, like that's not the thing. It is reactionary. We need a general strike, which means that everyone across institutions, across agencies, across spaces and places need to decide to stop operating inside of this extractive system of capitalism that is grinding all of us to dust. That's what we need, because boycotting YouTube, you're going to boycott me. You're going to boycott Kaivon. You're going to boycott Wash. Right? The very voices that you're saying that you want to support, there are very few platforms that you're going to be able to get on where white supremacists and the alternative views don't exist. So you have to choose strategically where you're putting your money, your time, and your energy, not just saying like, let me boycott the next thing that pops up, because those type of pop-offs are just that. They are pop-offs. They're not collective strategy, which is what the people actually need right now.
And we got the No Kings rally coming up, folks. Listen, if you get 3.5% of the population If you got 3.5% of the population to protest, that's what they've shown historically leads to the toppling of governments. The last time you got 5 million people in the No Kings rally, 3.5% of the population will be 11.5 million. If you can even get to 8 to 9, folks, especially with Donald Trump sinking in the numbers, especially with the weakness, especially Danielle, right before you came in, Kaivon and I were talking about how, like you and I talk about often, how they tried to make a ragtag fire out of Charlie Kirk, but they failed. They tried to make a ragtag fire last week out of the shooter, the ICE shooter, Joshua Johns. They failed. They're trying to create ragtag fires nonstop, Kaivon, but it isn't working. I want to ask you this before I bring on Lev. Lev's going to come on in 5 minutes, and Kaivon, I'm going to have to let you go and bring on someone else on the ship. But I do want to ask you this, Kaivon, because you did have an important piece about how, just stick with us, folks, how Democrats can learn from what Turning Points USA did effectively. Not recreate it, not recreate the hate because it was a hate machine, but actually stop seeding the ground. And Kaivon, you're the young one here. You said Democrats have seeded the ground in colleges and thought, oh, this is so stupid. And Charlie Kirk was there on the ground and he just friggin' flipped the switches of so many young people who, by the way, went for Trump. And now all those numbers have left Trump. Talk to us about your idea of what you can learn from Turning Point USA, but actually use that model as a model for, change,
Yeah, for
reformation.
not.
Good.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for the opportunity. I think it actually really ties into what Danielle was saying about who's not going to save us. Because as much as we want to, have independent media and it's super valuable, influencers are not going to save the Democratic Party. And I think one of the key lessons that Democratic operatives and campaigns seem to take away from the success of Charlie Kirk is his virality. And that's a small piece of what he did, was go viral and build this digital ecosystem. The work that I think is overlooked and much harder and much more important is that Turning Point USA for the last decade has been $100 million top-down, hyper-local organizing effort led by Charlie Kirk. And what does that mean? That means thousands of chapters in high schools and colleges across the country that have money to do things. And the things that they are doing are hiring field organizers, having daily events. I think a lot of people think, oh, maybe Charlie Kirk visits a campus and that's the presence of Turning Point. That's not it at all. That's maybe their highlight of the year. Every day, those folks are on the ground registering voters with those stupid debate me tables, whatever you want to call it. But there is no equivalent targeted effort like that on the left because it's less sexy to say, hey, I want to build a long-term, decades-long pipeline to win the next generation that requires investment and organizing at the local level, which, by the way, is always what has worked. We saw this already with Democrats totally losing school board races across the country. A couple years ago, suddenly Democrats woke up and said, we've lost all these school board races. And by the way, those are some of the starting grounds for these culture wars that are happening. And, oh, yeah, it's because Republicans were spending the money here. We're organizing here from a top-down national level. And we were just sort of relying on grassroots without a lot of support. So I think absolutely Democrats need to learn from Charlie Kirk to build that infrastructure, to make sure that there are those resources, not just pump $1 million every day into a new random influencer, because those are not people that first of all, I don't think we've seen the proof in the pudding that democratically aligned influencers anyways are the ones who are changing hearts and minds. If anything, that's what Kirk and folks have been able to do. They've found those sort of one issue people like a Jillian Michaels, a random health influencer with a following who's been sort of pipelined in through that one issue of MAGA and RFK, right? We need the influencers on our side who want to cooperate on things like, oh, finally, I'm repulsed by what I'm seeing on immigration, right? Like somebody like a Theo Vaughn, as much as I don't think we should listen to him, if we could get him to turn on Trump over immigration, right? He's not going to start saying the DNC talking points. He's not somebody I would suggest people listen to, but he's effective to his audience on that one issue if we can get wiggle room. That takes a lot more work. It takes a lot more thinking about policy, and it's a lot less easy than saying, oh, let me pay, some 20-year-old kid with 1 million followers who says everything I tell him to put out this content. So they really need to focus less on the digital and more on the real world. And that's why I'm so glad you brought up No Kings, because showing up in the real world, as much as you reposting and sharing is important, these are echo chambers. And we've learned that time and time again. So I think, what can you do in your daily life? What action can you take? If you're an attorney, go down and go be present at these courts where they're arresting detainees, all of that stuff.
That was great, Kaivon, and I really appreciate it. And I think people should really pay attention because they've spent so much money. They've literally burned money trying to find this left-wing Joe Rogan. It's so infuriating. You want to bash your head against the wall. Once these New York Times articles come out, even recently, just the way they're like sitting there at the wine cellar right now, coming up with an idea. It's so painful. I'm not looking this up, man. And it's like, spend some of this money in the youth, some of this money on school board, spend some of this money. Charlie Kirk was not that impressive. He was just there. And then friggin' they spent hundreds of millions of dollars and manufactured him into something. We have the numbers. Kaivon, Lev is waiting. Shamelessly promote yourself before you go.
Yeah, no, would love everyone to subscribe here on Substack. I got pretty much daily content, exciting interviews and takes, and always great to join you too. So have a great conversation with Lev. Thanks so much.
Thanks, man. Take care, everybody. Danielle, let me bring on Lev, but I want to ask you a question that people aren't paying attention to now. Is Clarence Thomas essentially said that precedent doesn't matter? Can you tell us what that means to you? Because I understood what that meant to me.
Oh, precedent doesn't matter, meaning that any laws that were created that we usually use as a model for how we decide what we're going to rule on doesn't fucking matter anymore. So for him, I'm confused. I guess he doesn't care about Loving v. Virginia and the ending of the ban on interracial marriage because he's particularly talking about same-sex marriage. So we will see. I guess he doesn't care about the precedent around, the end of segregation that has allowed him to even have a seat on the bench. So I guess precedent doesn't matter.
Except when it comes to Loving v. Virginia.
Yeah, except for that. But I'm like, I guess he doesn't care about that one either, because if he thinks that that's not going to be erased too, I don't know.
I have, Lev, before I bring you on, I know it's dark humor, but it reminds me of that amazing Chappelle Show sketch where the black man didn't realize he was a Klan member. And once he realized he was a black man, he divorces his white wife because she says, I can't believe she married an N lover. And I feel like that's what Clarence Thomas might do. He goes, you know what? For the cause, I'll divorce Ginny and I'll segregate myself.
Go back into slavery?
Go back into slavery.
That's what he's doing. I mean, not just him, but a lot of people right now are just losing their mind. I don't even know. You can't.
Well, we got Lev, folks. We got Lev and Danielle. It's a rare matchup. I saw Danielle. I yanked her in because I said, you know what? Why should she rest? No, let's make her work. And then Lev, same thing with Lev.
Comment when I come in.
Yeah. I go, as soon as I see Danielle, like, why should you? And then Lev also yesterday, I'm like, why should Lev rest? Let's make him work. Lev Parnas is a former Trump fixer, and folks, he has some eyes and ears on the ground. And for the last couple of months, when he says, "Watch this space," so far he's batting 1,000. So these, some people say, "Oh, I got, my sources are telling me." You're like, yeah, whatever. But Lev's sources actually have been proven consistent. And Lev, I haven't talked to you today. You saw we were talking. We have about 1,500 people watching. We've talked about a bunch of issues, but the issue that animates us is today's batshit, terrifying, pathetic, sad, desperate cosplay by Pete Hegseth and General McCankles, in front of our stunned and horrified military generals who, I will say, folks, the good news, did not applaud, looked disgusted, did not hoot and holler. And Trump came in and blustered, but he said some really dangerous, really shocking things. Your take on it, what are you hearing?
First of all, I mean, he opened up everybody. The masks came off completely today. And the one thing I want everybody to understand very clearly, and I've been speaking with a lot of people all day, literally, this is not coincidence that we're having a shutdown happen tonight, and they had this whole whatever debacle, whatever you want to call it today. This was a major message. It was coordinated by Russell Vought, Stephen Miller, and now you got Susie Wiles, who has joined that group, which is very dangerous, of putting together, pushing through Project 2025. A part of the shutdown, I just want to touch down on that for a second, is because what I'm hearing is this was a strategic play to put the Democrats in the corner. And instead of the Democrat leadership coming out there jointly with a unified message on every television station, every day, 24 hours a day, wherever they could, to keep saying it's the Republicans' fault, they right now creatively are cornering the Democrats right now into position and try to, if you take a look at all the media today, everything he's hearing, even at when he was giving the speech, it's because of the Democrats is being shut down. But what he's saying that also he said today, which is what I've been talking about earlier, part of the Project 2025 out loud, is he said during it, we could do some very irreversible things. So they better be careful, meaning fire certain people, meaning get rid of certain programs during the program. And he said that today during his actual press conference during that whole Pfizer announcement. During that, he made it clear. So during the day today, he's been giving these, just like right prior to going to that whole debacle in front of the generals, he came out and just plainly said, if I don't like who I see or what I see, I'm going to fire them right there. So today he's basically took the mask off completely and came out and did this whole thing between the shutdown, between the getting all the generals there in one spot. And it's more deeper than people are saying. I mean, this is a purge, folks. This is not this is a loyalty pledge. This is not just some sort of we're here because we want, to make our army look better. If you listen carefully, and I always say, watch what they do, not what they say. They could be saying that this is, oh yes, but what they're doing is they're preparing for war in Venezuela.
Yep.
So they need to be able to have their people on board. They're preparing a war inside our country. So they need generals and people on board. And the one thing they both mentioned, Trump said it by saying that if you don't like what you hear or whatever, you can just get out. And then he reminded them, but you lose all your medals, you lose all your pensions, you lose everything. He gave that on the way out. Same thing that Hegseth said, if what you're hearing, if you don't like or you're taking a deal, if it hits you too hard or however he said it, you can leave, you could resign, basically. The objective of the speech was to be so radical, from what I'm hearing, is to have these people resign. Because, and this is what I think is an interesting because I spoke today to Malcolm Nance, we were discussing it also, and, he had to run, and one of the things I didn't get a chance to ask him is, what are the generals going to do right now? Because yes, your first instinct is to resign because you don't want to, you're not going to go along. Like Millie said, we don't serve not one dictator, especially not one wannabe dictator, to the Constitution. But if you resign, then you play right into their role, basically giving them free reign. So I think right now, our democracy right now rests on these generals. Because this is our last line of defense.
I agree.
Because if they right now stand up to him, he no Supreme Court, he won't be able to do nothing without the support of the military. That's why he's making such a hard push constantly on the purging of the military. That's why he kept Hegseth in there, even though he's a bumbling fool, even though he has the signal gate, even though he can't do anything right, he still keeps in there because the one thing he is doing is being loyal to purge and get rid of. And it doesn't matter. This is the important part. He's getting rid of 3-4-star generals, replacing them with 1-2-star generals that it would take decades, sometimes to get to that achievement, if that, to be able to experience that they don't have. And they're putting him in the position not because of what they know, but they're putting him in the position because of the loyalty to Trump. And then the scariest thing, there's a lot of things that were scary, and from the way they said, but the scariest thing that I took out of the whole thing today is when Trump basically said that, we need to bring it to start training our forces by inside American cities. Some of these, San Francisco, and he mentioned all the Democratic cities. To prepare them for warfare other places on our own American citizens. And that is for people that is some scary thing, because you gotta understand, it's not that he's just saying it, he's actually currently doing it. Because if you take a look at what's happening every day, every city from Chicago to California to you name it, you're seeing a military style. You're seeing even without your people, military style formations, the way they're attacking, the way they're doing. Without no consequences whatsoever, and that's why this is like the next step. Because any dictator to become, if you take a look at history, any dictator, for them to become the dictator, they had to get the army on their side. They had to get the military on their side. And this is why this today is the most dangerous part, and I'm going to be writing a Substack letter about this later, because this is the most dangerous time in our country right now, because if the military folds, he will have his dictatorship in order, because this is the last chance. Because if you take a look, Russia, any other place in history, when the military stood up, the coup doesn't happen. You could, fight, but the military is the last line of defense.
Well, that's what, when Danielle messaged me, uh, that's what she messaged, like, oh shit, everything we've talked about and what we've talked about independently, what we've talked about in Democracy-ish with me and Danielle, what we've talked about, Lev, you and me, for several months, is watch this space. Look at his actions, look at his behavior, take him literally, take him seriously. He's going to go for martial law. Everything that we've said has come true. It's the world's worst. I told you so. I do not want it to be true. I would love to be proven wrong. I will eat friggin' halal crow. I don't care. You can all laugh at me and mock me. It's fine. It's fine. I want you to laugh at me and mock me, because that means I was wrong. And I'm glad to be wrong about this, Danielle. But based on what Lev said and based on what we've seen and what we've talked about, is we have said this man will not leave. We've said this man is planning on staying forever. It's forever a rule. This man is already selling Lev a 2028 merch. He's showing off that merch to foreign leaders who visit. He showed off that merch to Zelensky. He's even talked about how he will stay in power. For those who don't know, the way he'll stay in power is J.D. Vance is going to run 2028, and then J.D. Vance is going to step down and have Donald Trump, his VP, become his president. Technically, he can do it. And if he can't do it, this Supreme Court will let him do it, right? Also, he now has literally American military terrorizing Portland for no reason, based on bullshit charges. The ICE and masked armed agents in the military cracking brown and black skulls in LA. The U.S. Capitol right now, 2,000 armed National Guard folks. Venezuela, which Lev and I talk about a lot because people don't talk about. It's huge, folks. Venezuela, look what he did. He unilaterally killed 11 people, extrajudicial assassination without any evidence, said that they're terrorists. He just declared Antifa as terrorists. Danielle and I yesterday on our show talked about the national security memo, where certain rhetoric, Lev, is now considered violent extremists. He's purging everyone. I think, Danielle, based on what Lev is saying, if I'm the military, if I'm this brass, I stay, I force him to remove me, I violate his illegal orders, because, by the way, you're supposed to reject illegal. You're not supposed to obey illegal orders. Danielle, if you were in the military right now, what would you do? And if you see the photos, folks, the photos are actually, I got to find some silver lining, Lev and Danielle. These people were not impressed. There's this one photo of a guy literally like this. They were disgusted. Danielle.
I mean, look, I think that we have to also remember, wasn't Mattis upon his leaving that he spoke to active members, reminding them of their oath that they took to the Constitution, and reminding them that you swear an oath not to a person, not to a king, but to the Constitution of these United States. I do not come from a military family. I have some one member of my family that was in the military, but if it were me, if I am these generals and these admirals, I stay. I do not walk out. I
agree.
stay, because this is now a war that is being waged from within. And if you believe in your oath and still control your ranks, you need to stay. Right? And you need to hold the fucking line. I just want people who are watching right now to understand that, like, when Lev said, like, we are in a dangerous place, we have never experienced anything like this before. This is what we've been experiencing the last 8 months, has been the calm before this martial law storm. They have been placing these people, these military apparatus in place for a reason for the last 8 months. It is so that they are already there when Donald Trump says, go, attack, kill, murder. This is Tiananmen Square on fucking crack. And for those that don't know Tiananmen Square, it is when the Chinese government turned the military on unarmed students and literally rolled over them with tanks. Okay?
In real time.
And it is
Yeah.
something that is not spoken about in Chinese history, but it is that they don't know about. It has been exercised from their history books. It's been exercised from their language. Those family members of those children that were killed, they were exorcised from society. right? Like, this is the moment that Donald Trump wants on American soil. He just told our military to use American citizens as target practice. Okay? So I think that people need to understand that when I say we're not voting our fucking way out of this, this is the shit that we are talking about. That we are hoping and praying that our military holds the line, but many of them may actually not, right? They may agree with Donald Trump, right? And those that are wanting to fight their way up into these positions will do that because they're going to be rewarded for it in the present. What happens to them in the future, they don't care about. So, folks, this is again going to come down to how much the American people are willing to tolerate, how much the American people are willing to go along with the get along of authoritarianism and say, like, well, I can still put food on my table. I still have a job. So I'm just going to keep my head down and keep moving forward as if this is not going to catch up to everybody.
Danielle, here's a quote. Here's a quote from Trump. Said it today. He's not wrong. I thought I would be met with fury on the left, but they just sort of giving up. I really thought we were going to have to sort of fight it through. There's been no fight. He said that today. Lev, your response.
Yeah, no, I put that actually. I quoted him in my Substack, but Danielle's 100% right. And I want to say that the other thing is you have to understand where he's getting these playbooks from. The fact that what he said about putting J.D. Vance in Waj, and then having J.D. Vance make him the president, that came out, for those of you that know, for Vladimir Putin. That's how Vladimir Putin did. He was president, then he became prime minister, and he made Medvedev the president, and then Medvedev left, and then made Putin president and changed the constitution forever. So basically, and that's how the dictatorship gets turned over forever, and his good pal Putin is walking him through, telling him what to do. The other thing is rewriting history. I mean, that is one of the things that also my sources are telling me is part of what we're going to be breaking every day going forward about indictments coming. And the fact that he's now after Wray, and Christopher Wray is now on the chopping board because he's part of rewriting. They want to get, just like Danielle said, Tiananmen Square, they want to get rid of January 6th. That's their Tiananmen Square. So they want to rewrite it that it was a deep state operation. It was the FBI that was in it. It was, put together by, the Bidens and, and so on and so on. So that is part of exactly the playbooks you're seeing. China, Russia, Trump is basically taking all of them and trying to become the master. And that's what I'd be saying. He's been a student of authoritarianship, and now he's trying to bring it here and become the master of dictatorship. And we can't let him happen. We can't let it happen.
Look at yesterday, folks. A big piece of news that we just talked about, no one's talking about. YouTube, pieces of shit, bent the knee and gave him $24.5 million to settle a lawsuit because they took away his account for inciting a violent insurrection. So they just settled $24.5 million. They didn't learn the lesson from ABC. They said, oh, the people just, there's nearly 1.7 million cancellations of Disney Plus, and ABC then did the right thing and brought on Jimmy Kimmel, and he's bigger than ever. What should we do? Let's bend the knee. Northwestern, bending the knee. Harvard, bending the knee. Yale, bending the knee. Corporate law firms, bending the knee. CBS, bending the knee, right? And so, literally for me, folks, the last line were these generals. Because my friends who are veterans said to me, and they keep telling me, listen, I know he has a lot of these young folks. I know there's a lot of folks who are in law enforcement who are MAGA, but the generals, the people we serve for, and ourselves included, we have taken an oath. We take this oath seriously. And if it seems like this guy is going to be dangerous and subvert the U.S. democracy, I have my gun and I will defend this country, right? Like, these are my veteran friends, and they're like the generals. They know about this country. They're smart people. They're educated people, right? The one hope I have with the military, but even then I'm skeptical, because I see ICE agents cracking brown skulls, Danielle. I see the military cracking skulls. The fact that the generals were so disgusted gives me a little bit of hope. The fact, Lev and Danielle, that he's old, that he's cankled, the fact that the poll numbers have come out this week, folks, look at all the poll numbers. It is not good. The average poll number has Trump like at 39, and like he's going down. Young people have left him. Latino voters have left him. The Epstein Files aren't going away. The economy is terrible. And now you have the No Kings rally. I have a question though for Danielle and Lev, because Lev, I've seen you get really pissed off about the opposition and Democratic leadership as well. So let me get Danielle in first, then I'll get you in. Um, Dem leadership. What the F, Danielle? What more do you need to see?
I mean, this is why, look, this is why I say that I'm a Democrat on paper because I haven't done the paperwork, but I have spiritually and mentally left this party because they are an embarrassment and I don't like to be associated with fucking losers. So, like, I don't know how much more the information Democrats need to show the American people that they're not built for this moment, that not only are they not built for this moment, they just want to keep the status quo. They never were interested in having any resistance towards Donald Trump because if they were, we wouldn't be here. So like the fact of the matter is that, you know, we cannot rely on Schumer's, on Jeffrey, on any of these people to do what is necessary to get done. Without the pressure from the people, they are going to literally allow this shutdown to come to pass, right? And say, oh, well, we got to be the adults in the room. No, you don't know how to play 4D chess, right? And like, you should know how to play 4D chess because the people that you're playing with are literally thumbing around with finger paints. But again, Democrats don't show that they are willing and understand the moment that we are in, right? Like, when you have the military has been called into one place to swear their loyalty to Donald Trump, and I still have fucking representatives saying that we'll get him in 2026, are you stupid? Like, are you fucking dumb? Unless 2026 was tomorrow, it's not happening.
Well, Danielle, remember
like, what's
was
next?
Jeffries or Schumer yesterday who said, I think he finally heard us? Was it Schumer or Jeffries who said that yesterday? Remember that? I think he finally heard us.
They're sick. I mean, the fact. I mean, the fact that they even wanted to go. Just think about this. I mean, the fact that they, after everything, were planning to sit down with Trump and have a meeting to not to have a shutdown. That right there tells you that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. That tells you right there that they have no clue where they are because that's the total setup for Donald Trump. I mean, he, you know, he sits with them. I remember even now, I can't even imagine what he's going. He probably is loving it. The way they're groveling, the way they're running around at each other's throats, you're begging him to do, and you know, and he's like, shoo, you don't belong here. It's go change it, come back, and then we'll do it. And then right after he sends the pit bulls, you know, Johnson and Vance and all them, they get out and they start regurgitating because think about what they're regurgitating again. It's the same old message. It hasn't changed. They're trying to give the immigrants, they're trying to open borders. That's why we're having a shutdown. We're having a shutdown, folks, because the Democrats want to give open borders and they want to give immigrants money, which is a total lie. They
have all the votes. They have the votes. Republicans don't need a single Democratic vote. Simple.
Exactly. It's that's what I'm saying to you. And I want Democrats coming out. Instead, they're standing there trying to get a meeting with Donald Trump.
Which, which you're totally right. Just shows how unprepared they are. And I'm just like, and after 10 years, we're still here and you're still doing the same shit, expecting a different result. The Democrats are literally the example and definition of insanity. Like, this man has shown you time and time again who he is. He has shown you how shameless he is. He has shown you that he is willing to do and say anything to get whatever the fuck it is that he wants. And you're still standing there thinking that you're going to legislate your way out of this? Like, go fucking take a knee in the hall with your kente cloth on and see if you can call in some courage from the ancestors at this fucking point, because they're embarrassing.
I would just say punch yourself in the face and cry, but they could also kneel. Danielle, Lev, I want to ask you this, a final question. I got to get Pete on soon, Dominic, and we have 5 minutes, but I see the one saving grace for us. Well, a couple of saving graces. We have the numbers. Donald Trump is old, and this entire administration is recklessly chaotic and self-destructive. There was a piece that came out yesterday in the Daily Beast that said that Pete Hegseth is even more manic than usual.
Yeah,
Apparently,
I read
he's
that.
super manic. But people are like, and we've talked about this, Lev, how you've said, and this backs up with the Lev sources, also with military.com, that increasingly the military does not respect him. They see him as a fraud, a cosplayer, a guy who's acting like a tough guy. He's trying to do these purges. They see him as unstable. There's leaks coming from within the White House. We assumed alleged Susan Wiles and others, but now he's even more manic. Hash Patel, eyeball and headlights. Pam Bondi, sorry, I had to. Pam Bondi getting more and more outed, right, as being a reek for Donald Trump, hiding the Epstein files. Dan Bongino, like, where's Waldo? He's like Homer Simpson. He hides in the bushes, right? These people are clowns. And JD Vance is not respected. He's trying really hard. I still don't think he has it. Maybe the recklessness and the infighting and the pettiness and the ego might be our saving grace here. Because even Candace Owens now is going against the FBI and Kash Patel. You've been seeing that. You see Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That, but they have a huge thing now that I don't know if you noticed. Nobody's talking about. I want you to take a look at now. They have the whole big conspiracy about the Charlie Kirk cover up of the death.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I've been watching
MAGA's going berserk about that, and Candace is all over this, and they're all fighting, saying that now they just redid the whole university, covering it up. They're talking about that this was not the shooter. So there's a lot more, and now this new shooting that just happened. It was a Trump a loyalist that happened at the church,
Michigan.
in the church shooting. So there's a lot. And I agree with you, Waj. And I just want to say this one thing with a very, very precautious tune. Yes, there's so much, and that's why it drives me crazy, because Trump and MAGA are giving us so much to be able to get back our democracy, to win it, but we have nobody that's taking it by the reins and saving it. And this is the problem, because just think about this: you have the Epstein Files have brought together Marjorie Taylor Greene. You have Lauren Bobbitt. You have Nancy Mace. You have some of the hardest Trump supporters out there willing to vote with Democrats on this issue. So you're telling me if we had a real powerful Democrat in the leadership in Congress, you tell me we could right now get 2-3 votes of Republicans together to throw out policy. Fuck policy. Let's get together and save democracy so we can debate policy. All we need is 2-3 votes, 4 votes. It's that tight.
And guess what?
Because they don't respect Hakeem Jeffries. Nobody respects Hakeem Jeffries in there. That's why he can't get it done. Schumer can't get it done. There's no way. We need somebody with some, I don't know, I'm sorry, with some balls to come in there, and take it by the reins and say, hey, guys, come here. There's 217 Republicans. We speak about 5-10 of them that we mention the names. There's about 200 that you don't even talk about, that are scared for their names. How do you not go and talk to them every single day? Bringing him in, I just don't know. It's driving me crazy.
He's the most animated and pissed off I've ever seen Lev in my life. Lev. You're my internal monologue to myself. That's because look, Adelita Grijalva of Arizona, the progressive Democrat, just won. Folks, that gives Democrats 218 votes. Do you know what?
Guess who's holding the House hostage so that he doesn't have to fucking swear her in and lock the fucking doors today?
So tell me, how does Hakeem Jeffries doesn't come in there and take all of them and just lock them in and says, come in, and start calling him out? Stand outside and say, this is each Republican that doesn't want to talk. Do something. They're not doing anything. I mean, they just came out in front of the Oval, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and Trump is now trolling them with Mexican sombreros. This is what we got.
Listen, you know what? I saw that troll, and some people are like, come, it was Blake, the former senator from the Republican former senator. He commented on that sombrero thing. He goes, come on now, Republicans, we're not like this. And I was like, I want to respond and say, this is exactly what we're like. But I'm like, let Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries be humiliated because they see them as weak, Lev. And I think you made a very important point that it's not just us. It's Republicans who see them as weak. It's Donald Trump who see them as weak because there's so much ammunition, folks. Folks, step back. And I want to end on a positive note here, if it's possible. He is underwater, folks. Listen, I want you to leave with something positive. He's underwater. He's negative double digits on the economy. He is Colonel Cankles. He does not look well. Lev, tell him. Tell him what the inside scoop is.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting IV treatment like almost every other day. That's where you're seeing all this thing. I don't know what medicine, but he's getting treatment, and so he's not. Listen, he's not at at the rate he's going and with everything that's happening. That's why you have the push. I mean, just think about what they've done
Yep.
in 9 months. This was a 4-year plan that was literally scrunched into 9 months, and now that's why you're here. You constantly talking about Vance and others. He's not well. He's not, doing great. And that's why you had that week, so, I mean, look, plus he's up there. I mean, he's not that young. So you see it yourself. You don't need
Not healthy, negative double digits on the economy. Economy is getting much worse, folks. Epstein Files, like I said before, 80% of Republicans, 80% of MAGA, 80% of independents, over 80% of liberals all want the release of the files. It's the only bipartisan issue in America. Overreach on immigration, overreach on the National Guard, overreach on censorship with Jimmy Kimmel. The edifice is falling apart, and there's only so many band-aids, which is why, as we've said, he's a cornered rat, and a cornered rat who will do anything to stay in power. Today was yet again an example of what we have said on this show, on Danielle's show, on Lev's show. He is going for martial law. So that's the scary part. Danielle, before we leave people, and Lev, one thing you want the people to do, and that could even be pressuring Democrats, but one thing the people should do.
People need to start organizing in your communities, whether it's going through 5501C, whether it's going through Indivisible. You need to find who is active in your community and activate, whether that is donating, supporting, building food banks, because everything is going to get shut down. So you need to think about, what are the things that I need to do to take care of myself, take care of my community. And I'm telling you, it's going to be like shutting down food supplies, shutting down medicine, these things. Don't be hoarding, thinking about, what can we do for the collective? What are our collective banks, food banks, medicine banks, these things that need to get done and built up in our communities now, in preparation for martial law.
Lev.
I mean, everything Danielle said, and my important message to each and every one of you out there is, each and every one of you knows somebody that has military family. We need to do an all-out blitz right now, and I'm warning you right now to get to each and every general that sat in that room and make sure that they do not leave, that they do not take his orders, that they do not leave us out there to dry like the Democrats did, because that is our last line of defense. If the generals stand up and if they don't allow them to do it, then yes, everything we're talking about here, we will have a chance. We will be able to save our democracy. But if this line of defense falls, and that's why we need to make our voices heard, forget about calling Democrats, forget about calling call these generals, call their, I don't know if through family, through friends, through, let's do a petition, if there's office numbers that we could spread out there that we could call, let our voices be heard. Let these generals heard that we, the people, stand behind them. And we want them to stand behind our Constitution and to pledge the allegiance to our Constitution, and not to one king, not to one dictator, and especially not to one orange wannabe dictator. And that's what we need the message to get out today. And that should be the number one and important message. Should be nothing else.
I agree. As you were talking, I said, veterans, their friends, their families, let's unite. Let's stand up for this country against tyranny, against Trump. We need them with us, the majority. I think so. I think all the veterans, look, man, if these military generals go, we're in a deep place, dark place, folks. We're in a dark place. I will end all you with what I said. The fact that these generals look disgusted, the fact that they did not applaud, the fact that they looked ashamed, the fact that a hoot or holler, that it's different from the kiddos. The kiddos are young. These are 4-star, 3-star generals, a lifetime of experience, who came from all around the world for this bullshit, and they did not sign on to this ragstack fire moment. And that, my fear is, like Lev said and Danielle said, that's also a purging moment. He's going to identify who hooted, who didn't holler, and they're going to get rid of them. I want them to stay. I want them to be forced out. A long, prolonged, humiliating force out, so it's in the news, Danielle and Lev, so that it animates other veterans to say, F you, how dare you, right? You cannot bend the knee. Force them out by name. Say, all right, mother effer, force me out. Just like Dr. Monera's of the CDC, force me out. Before you get me out, I'm gonna friggin' go and testify in front of Congress. And what happened to Maha and RFK? His numbers go down, down, down. I think Lev and Danielle, he's gonna get to the 30s in the next month. Which, by the way, folks, this is just the first year. The first year isn't even over. The fact that he's hemorrhaging, it's bad. So we have the numbers, we have the majority, we have to do the work. Lev, before you go, shamelessly promote yourself.
Guys, I'm here, Substack family. So, thank you for all of you that subscribe. God bless everyone. For those of you that haven't yet, join the mission to save our democracy. What can I say? We're here to be able to this is not a show. We're actually, the people on this stage are risking their freedom in the world we live in because Donald Trump, and I know him very well, is looking to shut every single one of us up. So we're doing this not because we're trying to be some celebrities and run a show. We're doing this because we're trying to save our democracy. So please subscribe, and if you can, become a paid subscriber because this, fighting the truth is a lot more harder than it is to spread a lie.
And folks, I have Pete Dominic who's going to join us in a minute. But before I bring him on, Danielle, shamelessly promote yourself and promote us.
Yes, I echo everything that Lev just said. This isn't a show. It is, it is us doing what we can with what we have in order to get people activated to your responsibility as citizens. I'm at the Damn Digest. Waj and I do Democracy-ish on Mondays and Fridays on my YouTube channel. So do support that. Everything is free. And then we're here on Wednesdays on our midweek check-in for Democracy-ish. Support the Damn Digest. Support independent media. And if you have a few bucks, please do consider becoming a paid subscriber because that is how we continue to give you the type of content that is truthful, that is honest, that is passionate, and that is necessary in this moment.
And tomorrow we're on Democracy-ish, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Substack. And Danielle, you're trying to get to how many? 40K YouTube subscribers? How much do you have?
I'm trying to get to 40,000 YouTube subscribers. I am over 32,000 right now. So do head over there. And I'm trying to get to 10,000 Substack subscribers. And I'm 50 away from that right now. So.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. And Danielle, congrats. Your energy vibed off on Lev. It's the most animated I've seen.
I love it.
Usually he's chill, but today he was just like, what? It's our democracy. It's our freedom. It's our rights. It's our liberty. It might be our lives. It might be our lives, folks. Like, people have been disappeared in this country. People are being tortured. People got sent without due process to die in a foreign prison. This is it. We're in it, folks. Everything we warned about, everything we've been warning about on Democracy-ish for 3 years, everything Lev and I have been talking about since the summer, we are in it. Eyes wide open. Trust the evidence of your eyes and ears. And history will remember us and history will judge us. What did we do? Did we at least speak out? Did we at least do something? And there's so many of us, folks. I wanted you just to know there's so many of us. This country worships money above all else. On the drop of a dime, we said, F you, Disney. We canceled Disney Plus. The next day, Jimmy Kimmel, he's live. And guess what? Sinclair and Nexstar also caved. And they brought him back on. So these generals, the veterans, I agree with you, Lev. Let's get veterans on. Let's have some veterans run for office. Let's get the veterans and their families say, all right, you might be conservative on certain issues. I don't care. Or if you're for freedom, liberty, against tyranny, or against this mother effer, let's unite. Increase the numbers, run for school board, run for city council, protest, strike, no King's rally, all hands on deck. And the final thing I'll say is the Democrats are looking at the same numbers. The New York Times just did a piece. They just said Trump is extremely unpopular. However, how come that unpopularity is not translating to support for the Democrats? It's because people want authentic fighters who are done with the bullshit. And I believe, Lev, you agree with me and Danielle, Hakeem Jeffries, Schumer, and the current leadership is not built for this fight. They are not made for this moment. So our job is to push, and to get new leaders out there. And if they're not going to be there, F them. We'll be the new leaders. We'll do it. Lev has a Substack. Lev remembers. Danielle has Danielle Moodie. One of you drop off. I'll bring on Pete. Thank you, guys.
Take care, guys.